There we are.
This is Tyler Royke. I'm here with my co-host Jimmy Doolin. You're listening to ABC Agent Broker Conversations, where we talk all things real estate. And I'm really excited about what it is we'll be talking about today. So, Jimmy, what do we got in store, and what's new, brother? Anything exciting this past week happened for you?
I was just on Facebook being jealous of your post about your car. So short of that, not too much. We did have an office agents giving, and I smoked 6 turkeys for my agents here, which was a lot of fun. So we had a real good turnout, about 80 people. So it was a lot of fun. But I'm excited too, man. I think in doing a podcast, it's I've heard from people in the industry that are more familiar than you or I that being able to do it consistently is the difficult part. Well, I'm not so sure. I don't mind getting behind the camera each week with you. Actually, I look forward to catching up, shooting the shit, and kind of going through the process. But I think what's difficult is coming up with stuff that's interesting to our audience, right? Stuff that people want to hear, stuff that they're interested in engaging with. So I don't know if I just fell over, hit my head, or what it is, but I think that if we started going through these Facebook pages of real estate, I mean, this one here, All Things Real Estate, got 64,000 members. I think if we go through there and we start reading these posts, and I mean, some of them you're going to have to take a hard pass on because you just couldn't say anything reasonable, nice, etc. Some of them we're just going to freaking laugh at, and others maybe we'll take a deeper dive into what it is they're saying. But I think that's relevant information, right? That's what agents are talking about. And I think if we talk about those on here, it'll be more entertaining and more valuable to our audience. So, we have an endless supply of content, right? These posts are coming out by the minute. I think since you started introducing and I started talking, there's been 4. So, and that's just one of the many platforms. So anyway, let's just tackle these things. So the first one says, this comes from an all-star contributor, by the way. So this is a really high level one. Am I allowed to turn down a listing because it's too cheap? It's in a scary / bad part of town too. I'm only wanting luxury clientele. How? ? Your thoughts, Tyler?
I mean, there's no. That can't be a real question. I mean, maybe it is, but just because you have a real estate license doesn't mean that you're obligated to take on any single piece of business you come across. So, I mean, yeah, if you want to sell luxury properties, you can sell luxury properties. You're not obligated to take on a client or a listing, or, I mean, you could turn down business. So, it's very clear that the person asking probably doesn't quite have the clientele base that they want to have at this point. Otherwise, that wouldn't even be a question, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can turn down business. So for any agent out there, if you don't want to do the business, if it doesn't fit your business model, you could have a minimum fee. And your minimum fee, if this property doesn't hit the minimum fee, you could turn it down for that. Or if the client's willing to pay your minimum regardless of the sales price, you could potentially accept it. But you could absolutely turn down business. Some of these questions just are mind-boggling.
And that's something I've noticed. I feel like newer agents, they'll kind of have a framework and idea of like what they like to charge for listings, be it a percent. And when they get a super low price, it almost throws them off. And sometimes it's a piece of land, it might be like a $15,000 piece of land, and they're trying to like figure out how they can actually do it for their listing percent. And that's where what you said is spot on. It's like, well, shoot, no, have a minimum commission. Like if something falls below that threshold to where you're even asking the question and you can't even figure out how you're going to have the dollars to market it properly, well, no, you should establish, if you are going to take on the lower price point business, what's the minimum fee? Because it doesn't have to be a percent. There could be a minimum flat fee if something falls beneath the threshold of what you would otherwise, like to be able to earn on it for, you to bring the service to the table.
I'm assuming that they asked this question because they're concerned that, like, is there some sort of license law or code of ethics about not doing certain deals? And so I think if you establish a policy, your policy, it's not EXPs or Remaxes or Century 21s or wherever you may be. It's not their policy, but it's your policy as an agent that this is your minimum fee to do a deal. If you have that minimum and you present that in front of every client, you're just fine. It's when you pick and choose and you only do it in certain neighborhoods, or you only do it with certain nationalities or certain religious backgrounds or any kind of protected class, that's when you get yourself into trouble with it. So as long as you're consistent, yeah, no problem. But you can just simply say no. You know what, I'm not interested. You don't need to go into great detail as to why. It's, you could just say that it's just not something you have the time to do.
Outside my area of expertise.
Yep, not my expertise. I'm covered up with other clients. I don't want to not service you properly. Hey, let me refer you to somebody who works that particular area.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm assuming you'd take a 25% referral fee from another agent who works that neighborhood. So, might be worth, even if the referral fee is $500 or $600, it might be worth it for a phone call.
Yeah, that way you're not stressed out and feeling like you're taking on business you didn't even want to take on in the first place.
Exactly. All right, this one right here. Boy, this is a doozy. Can we all agree that open houses are useless and boring as fuck? My broker made me do one yesterday, got nothing at all. Well, no, I can't agree. Can you agree?
No, I mean, shoot, your broker made you do one. I guess, I don't know. Did they not like teach you how to do one properly? Because you shouldn't have not had any guests if you were doing things correctly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, number one, this agent had no interest in doing the open house. So no wonder it sucked, because the agent sucked. They didn't do their job. They didn't work it. They didn't, did they go knock on doors around the neighborhood? Did they go
No way.
out flyers? They didn't do shit. They just showed up, and they just showed up and unlocked the door and waited for someone to walk in. They probably didn't even put signs up. That's I just can't agree. No, I think it's ridiculous. I think that a smart and successful agent goes out, does 20, 25 houses around there, knocks on the door, lets them know that they're going to have an open house, invites them to the open house. I think they get their signs up on the Friday or whenever their town ordinance allows them to get their signs up. They get the rider up early with the date and the time. They publish it in Realtor.com. They publish it in their local MLS. They publish it in Zillow and any other sources that they may have, so that they get the most attention. They go through their buyer pool, right? And they put it out there. They put it on social media. They do a video. I mean, there's so many things. I'm just assuming that this particular agent didn't do.
And I'll be, clear. I've never liked open houses per se, but they work. They're an effective way to get business. I hosted one within the past month, and I met 3 different sets of people that were going to buy and sell a house that haven't done it yet, that didn't have an agent they were committed with, and then a 4th person that was going to buy a place, not sell. But that's 4 contacts right there. I mean, are you going to close all of them? Probably not. But I mean, shoot, there's 3 of those contacts that could be 2 sides.
I was going to say there's 7 transactions, right?
7 transactions. Shoot, is that not worth? But you know what? I wouldn't have driven the traffic if I didn't go about it very, with a plan and strategy. I had a plan for how I was going to drive traffic there, and it worked. So, if you don't know what you're doing, that's where you're going to have, suboptimal results, if any.
What was your plan? Tell us what you did to drive your traffic.
Well, I mean, the big things were, one, making sure that it was driving the most amount of eyes it could online, which if you're not the listing agent, honestly, you don't really have full control over that. If you are the listing agent, then you better knock it out of the park. So, my photography was the very best. You know, the house was staged properly, so it looked the part online. It was getting more views than any other new listing in the area was online, and so more people saw it. This was the first week it was listed, so it was the first opportunity anyone really had to go see it. Second, signage. You know, I put 20 signs out. I'd say you should really at least put 30 out, but I had 20 out, so I was driving a really good amount of traffic into the neighborhood. There were 5 other open houses happening same day by different agents and different brokerages. No one else put 20 signs out. I think at best I saw one that had like 3 signs out. I kid you not, 3 signs, if that. So it's just the craziest thing. But it's like most agents don't really even try to drive traffic. They just show up with the sign, you know, open the door and sit there. Like, no, I spend an hour walking around putting signs out. Yeah, that's about, I mean, if I really wanted to like go all out to drive more traffic, there's a couple other things I would have done. But for me, that was enough to drive 21 sets of people through the house, 21 different.
What was the price of that house?
Price of the house was $440, and this is in a market where the median is under 300. So it was, I mean, considered a premium price point for the market. Not ideal to drive the highest amount of traffic, but still a good amount of interest at this price point.
But that's, so 7 transactions times 440,000 is basically $3 million. And I don't care what your fee, whatever your fee is, you multiply 3 million times whatever fee you're collecting, and that's a damn good fee. So, you know, I mean, I guess if you just show up at the open house and do nothing, you'll get nothing. But no, I can't agree that open houses themselves. I don't think that the open house is the problem. I think it was the agent that was the problem, which is unfortunate, but it is a reality. And if the agent's the problem and their broker's telling them to do open houses, maybe their broker should train them on open houses, as opposed to just sending them out there to quote unquote hold an open house.
Yeah.
All right, next one. What's the best part of being a realtor? I love hammering for sale signs everywhere. I don't even know that we can talk about that. I'm not sure what to say. I used a sign service when I was in the business, so I didn't put signs out, but I get the point. They like putting signs out. Everybody, all agents obviously like getting their signs out. So, all right, I have a closing this weekend for my biggest deal ever, $889K. Can't wait for the check. How would a boring, frugal agent spend it? And what about a fun one? I don't know.
I think a boring, frugal agent wouldn't spend it.
Right.
A fun one, they'd probably buy, I don't know, can you buy a boat with that? You could probably buy something fun with it.
Either that or they'd have their friends in a plane to Vegas for the weekend.
Yeah. But shoot, maybe I could totally, it's kind of a funny question, but I could get why someone's asking it, because I see this thing with agents that they just, like a lot of agents, they get these big checks and then they spend more than they otherwise would if they didn't get the big check, obviously. And maybe this is someone who's not as experienced getting these checks, and they're just trying to figure out how other agents do this. You know, hey, what do I need to go out and buy with this? I mean, my real answer though is like, shoot, take a really solid chunk of that and reinvest it back into your business. And then if that's a abnormally big check, like, shoot, you don't want to spend all of it. You want to set it aside and make sure that it actually has some staying power for you.
30% of it in the savings account for taxes, because you earned more than you get to keep. Let's face it. When it comes to real estate commissions, you're going to get paid more money than you actually get to keep. You certainly don't get to spend it all. You've got to give, some of it is pre-spent before you ever got that check. So some of the comments here, congrats. This came in from somebody. Congrats. My last one was my biggest payout ever too. 6-figure profit. Well, it's not profit. It may have been a 6-figure check, but that's not profit. I still kept my spending conservative though, took a mini vacation and had to reinvest some back into the program that got me to the deal. Save the rest for the IRS. Well, that's a good answer right there, because that 3-letter word is boy, that's some foul language if they're coming after you, because they will, nowadays they just take your damn license and park it. You can't even use it to make a living. Let's see here. Next person. I would more than double down if a program got me a 6-figure commission check. Aha. Where did you get it from? Oh, the contributor. So maybe this isn't, I don't know if this is accurate, because the person who actually wrote the question originally wrote down woman, weed, and whiskey. And this was a woman. Oh, goodness. Somebody said it sounds like a great country song. Oh, my Lord. Well, I don't know. You know, I think the smart person has a business plan, puts some percentage of that aside for taxes, some percentage aside for their business, and some percentage for fun. I do think you have to reward yourself whenever you do anything. You know, when my son had his first transaction, I told him, take this percentage and do with it as you see fit, so that you are rewarded for your efforts, so that the door knocking all paid off because you got to have a little bit of fun. It can't just simply be boring. There has to be a little bit of fun. But it was not a big percentage of the overall transaction. But he's relished and enjoyed what he got himself with that little bit of money, and it keeps you going. All right, here's one for you, because we don't have a lot of this in my market, but I would think you do. Solar panels caused 2 deals to fall out of escrow. Fuck Elon Musk and solar. Where can I get a quick closing before Xmas?
Where can I get a quick closing before Christmas? I mean, call Motivated Sellers. Shoot. But yeah, the solar thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking out my window. I can see houses with solar panels.
Is that a problem in your market? Because we don't. I mean, I'm in Indiana. We don't have a lot of solar, so we do have some, but I wouldn't say it's real common practice here. So does that typically cause problems?
It can. I mean, they're going to need to be paid off at closing. I mean, people don't really want to assume those big solar loans, I feel like. So
do they typically get done on loans? Is that the normal?
On loans?
Yeah. Are they are people not paying? I don't know what they cost. So are people not paying cash for them? Are they typically?
No, usually from what I've seen, they're on a payment plan. I don't think a lot of people are paying cash for them because they can be.
What are they spending for these?
It can be, I mean, into the 5 figures. It can be well into the 5 figures. I heard of someone on my team mentioned that they had, I think someone that had like 80K left or something on the loan for one, which is insane. And like, here's the bottom line with that. One, the people who sell these are very sleek, very slick, very well-trained salespeople, very phenomenal at selling. If they're going door to door doing this, very well-trained, as well as anyone I've ever seen. And, you know, sure, I mean, you can make sense of why you would buy one of these, but the bottom line for me is, if I'm not going to stay in a house forever, I don't know why. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense to, you know, have another outstanding loan, because then you gotta come to terms with that in a year, 2, 3 when you sell the home. And so I think, you know, maybe just and see, these salespeople, they always have a way to, you know, kind of skate around that and act like it's not going to be a problem. But reality is it is, because the person who's going to buy your house doesn't want to pay for that improvement.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly have to decide if it's, you know, if the payout or the return is going to work for you based on your time there. So I think the better question on this one is, where can I get a quick closing before Christmas? So, you know, I believe in a strategy of working short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals in terms of real estate, because, you know, online leads, for sale by owners, expireds are the they have the best turnaround in terms of short term. And I realize online can be really, really drawn out, but you can also hit one that just happens to pop immediately. But, you know, expireds and for sale by owners, those are typically people that have raised their hand and either didn't have success or are raising their hand partially by trying to do it themselves for whatever reason, whether it's saving money, they had a bad experience with a realtor, and so they sweared off realtors, whatever. But if this lady wants to get a deal in before Christmas, I suggest, first of all, I would say in person, not over the phone. So I would print your list and I'd get out every day from now until then, and I'd be banging on those doors. But if the truth be told, I would have been doing it all year if I were you, if I wanted to grow my business. I'd pick a number, whether it's 4, 5, 10, every day, every other day, and I would have a plan that I worked that consistently, and that would ultimately provide you the deals. You wouldn't have to post this because you wouldn't need to cram a deal in by Christmas because you would have done so many deals all year by working a plan as opposed to just sitting back and posting this. But 495 comments so far on that post. Where can I get a deal? All right. This one's for you, Tyler. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. What's the hardest part about being a realtor?
The hardest part about being a realtor, I mean, for me, I would say it's dealing with the emotional aspects of people when they're dealing with their largest financial transaction of their life, oftentimes. So for me, that's personally what I would say to that answer. But I feel like different people might have different answers to that. What's your take?
I think that the hardest part about being a realtor is the freedom that it allows. By the way, apparently my building's having a fire alarm, so if you can hear that craziness,
Or if you got to run out, please.
I don't see any smoke.
Please be safe.
I can see the door from here, so I think I'm good. I think that the hardest thing for being a realtor is the freedom that it allows, and most agents, unfortunately, don't work all the time. It's like that last post that said, "What do I do to get a deal between now and Christmas?" That they should have been working that all year long, as opposed to waiting until they needed it. So, I think that's the difficulty, is that it gives so much flexibility and so much freedom that people don't tend to work it the right way consistently. And let's face it, that's what pays off in real estate is consistency. If you do the same thing, even if you do it mediocre, if you do the same thing for multiple years in a row, it will produce results. And I think that's the hardest part, is that people don't consistently do. I mean, I banged on doors when I got my license like nobody's business. I was out every day hitting doors, and that's how I built my practice. And it paid off great for me, because eventually I was doing over 100 transactions a year from door knocking, predominantly from door knocking, and then the referrals and everything kicks in and it gets easier. But the hard part was being consistent when the results weren't there, and the hard part was motivating yourself to do what you should do because nobody else is going to make you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you need to do anything on your end with that alarm going off, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd like to shut the damn thing off. Other than that, no, I don't think I'm sure it's just a test. I mean, I can see outside. My wife's out there. One of our other agents is talking to her. They're fine. I'm fine. My dogs are in here with me. They're fine. They're not worried. I got them to protect me. All right, the next one. Trump needs to lower these rates and get us out of this recession ASAP. I'm tired of these buyers being too broke to do anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, if your problem is you don't have enough, I mean, buyers aren't all too broke. I mean, pull up your MLS and the sales. I guarantee you there's multiple sales happening, even if you're in a smaller market area. So, buyers aren't all broke. Someone's buying these houses.
3.8 million transactions in 2024. So there's some houses that have sold. I mean, when you divide that out by the number of states, you divide 3.8 by 50 states, and man, there's a lot of transactions happening. Now, Will, I'm assuming that you guys will have kind of a double whammy there in Texas, because you guys will, obviously, one of the things that's going to happen in order to lower rates is going to be drilling for oil. So that's in your backyard, right? That employs more people in your market, as well as see the decline in rates. So is that a double win for you guys?
Double win being you said the oil and what?
Well, you'll have more people employed, right? I mean, if we're drilling more, if we're going to drill for oil, if we're going to drill baby drill, as Trump says, and then we see the cost inflation go down, so interest rates go down. Does that then kind of work as a double win for you? You got more people employed and lower rates. I mean, we don't have.
I mean,
my market, so I just think to myself, the inflationary aspect will be a huge benefit. The rate reduction will be a huge benefit, but the drilling itself won't be a benefit. In your market, I'm just wondering, does that benefit your agents?
Yeah, I mean, employment up and rates down, I think would be a good thing. You know, it definitely would help to drive some more purchases for sure.
Seems like it would create opportunities for you guys that maybe some other places don't have. My husband forbids me to door knock and do open houses since they aren't safe anymore. My broker agrees. What else can I do to find clients?
They're not safe anymore. When did they not become safe? Well, like what changed?
I don't know. 905 comments about this. So I mean, look, I certainly don't. If you don't feel safe doing it, you shouldn't do it. Bottom line, right? But let's face it, it's easier to say I don't feel safe than it is to go out and do the work.
Yeah.
I mean, just saying. My old broker, when I started in the business, that guy door knocked in multi-million-dollar house neighborhoods. He was banging on houses on multiple acre lots and knocking down doors. It was unbelievable. This guy was a machine for door knocking. So, I saw him doing it. I did smaller homes because they were close together and easy. But irregardless, I would say my first thought is if you don't want to door knock because it's not safe, I'd say you're safe on the telephone. Maybe get on the phone. Start using that phone and dialing for dollars. I would also say that there are classes. I know at EXPCon they had a whole safety. They had a program there for agents to take to get trained in self-defense and safety. So you could consider that. But if you're just uncomfortable with it, don't do it. But you got to prospect, right? I mean, if you're not prospecting, you're just sitting around waiting for someone to drop in your lap, and that is not a strong business plan.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta do something. So if you don't want to get out there, you gotta hit the phones. Like that's the bottom line for sure.
I may hear that whistling sound for the next day. It was so loud in here, but I'm glad it's over. Yeah, I mean, I just can't. Somebody told her to take a bodyguard dog, take a self-defense class, do partner open houses. That's a great idea, actually, doing it with somebody else.
Yeah, bring a lender with you. If you find the right lender, they'd probably be up to, be there at a lot of your open houses, especially if you can drive traffic. But I mean, worst case, bring a colleague or friend at your brokerage with you.
And why not ask the lender to go door knock? I mean, they have the possibility of benefiting too, right? Because I don't know what percentage, but I got to think 80% of the people who own a home, if they were to sell their home, they would buy another home. So, why not take the lender with you and let them earn the business too? Somebody said we do open houses in pairs. Wait, somebody's got a Certileads. Have you heard of Certileads?
No.
I haven't either. It says here, you need a new broker to tell your husband to go with you then. I like that answer. Go do the open houses and door knock. They are great ways to find clients for me. I stopped doing open houses because I wanted time back with my family on the weekends. You have to supplement it with something else. Best way to get clients safely are referrals and inbound leads. Real Geeks and CertaLeads.com have had good results. I don't know if this is a commercial, like if this person is a part of CertaLeads, but CertaLeads is a link here that says that they have good leads. LP, what's LP?
LP?
It says LP has been my secret weapon.
Is that luxury presence?
I don't know. Majority of my business is from them, so it's a company, LP. Google that real quick. Majority of my business is from LP and from my sphere of influence. Oh, here we go. What is LP and how much does it cost? Luxury prospect. The price does depend on how many leads you want and the zip codes you enter. Luxury presence. Full review, latest pricing. So there's another source. Safe or not, door knocking is just a waste of time. That's what this gal says. It can work, but it's very inefficient. Open houses are great and allow you to do other things when you're slow and really pretty safe. If your broker's telling you not to do them, you definitely should be at a different broker. I tend to agree with that. I don't think that I think an agent should sit down and make a plan and follow that plan. Whether it's open houses or it's door knocking, I don't really care what their sources are, but I think you need 3 separate sources in order to build a sustainable business. I do like proactive activities like that because then you own your business and it's not owned by a lead source. I think when people buy all these leads, they're at the mercy. If their lead source raises their prices tomorrow, what can they do about it? And the answer is nothing. They can pay the price or they can not get the leads.
Yeah. It's and that's what all those, they're just all services. I mean, if someone's selling you leads for the zip code or whatever, like, you know, they're giving you the leads, but really they have to pay to generate them. So they're just, you know, making the spread on whatever they actually pay to generate it and then what they're selling it to you for. I think a lot of agents, they just never really dive into and figure out an effective way that they could just drive their own leads, you know, just like these services would otherwise do for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to an agent who was contemplating between joining me and joining a different group at EXP. And his question kind of, what's the difference between you and that group? And I said, well, I'm going to teach you how to hunt. You're not going to rent your business from a lead provider. You're going to learn how to actually go out, prospect, generate opportunities, and own that business so that it's yours and only yours. And you don't have to worry about writing a check to somebody else. And he, you know, he elected to go with us based on that because, you know, I am going to invest in teaching him how to build a reliable business that he owns and is not borrowing it from some provider. You're going to love this one. What is one thing another realtor can say that immediately makes you dislike them?
It makes you dislike them?
Yep.
I mean, people, the first thing that comes to my mind is people that don't answer their phone. It's not really the question, but or people that are just like super short and you know, not really willing to have a real conversation. Like, for instance, like if I'm offering on a house, you know, I like to start a dialogue with the listing agent. If someone's like not wanting to have a dialogue or just super short, you know, I'm not going to like that person right away. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, but I'm sure there's plenty of other scenarios.
Somebody else said my favorite one, and I'll tell you what used to always set me off is, well, I've been in this business for 30 years, or I've been in this business for 20 years or 50 years.
Yeah.
I hated that when I was in transaction. Somebody wrote it down here. This gentleman put, I've been doing this for 48 years and I've never heard of them. I hate when an agent starts out of the gate with how many years or how productive they've been in their career. You know, I've been in it a long time. I've sold a lot of real estate, but I always hate when people start off that way. I just think it's it comes out of the gate that you think because you've done it a long time that your opinion is better than my opinion. And I've done it 35 years, so I've been in it a long time. And so I could be just as guilty as the next person, but I just can't stand that. I always, any coaching, mentoring opportunities I get with agents, it's about working together with the agents and coming up with solutions on both sides of the table, because we are facilitators. We are there to facilitate the transaction for a buyer and for a seller. It is not about us. Quit getting your panties in a knot, get your feelings hurt. Just treat the other agent professionally and work through it. Good communication, goes back to what you said. No communication is probably the worst thing, honestly.
Yeah. And that reminds me, I had this, I was like, I think 3-4 years in the business. I met this guy who was a licensed broker. When he had figured out I had been in the business only 3 years, he immediately jumped to in our conversation, acting like he had all this advice to give me. And then I got to well, shoot, you're a broker. How long you been doing this? He's like, it was over 10 years. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And what's your business look like? Well, I come to find out in 10 plus years, he literally had done 3 or 4 deals in 10 years. And he's coming from a spot he's the one giving me advice when I'm doing a couple deals a month most months. And I'm just listening to this guy go on he's got all this wisdom. I'm just thinking back in my mind, what is wrong with you? That's crazy. I can't comprehend this.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
Nope.
All right, rates didn't drop like y'all promised. So we know they're from the South. Y'all promised they're higher now. Buyers are mad. When are they dropping more? I need people to buy. Well, first of all, it isn't about what you need as a realtor. It is about what the customer wants. And if you approach it that it's about you, you're approaching it all wrong. It's certainly not about the realtor. It is about what the customer wants. And again, as I said earlier, we are there to help people facilitate this transaction in the way that they want it facilitated. It's our job to walk them through, help them, guide them, advise them. But ultimately, it's their decision to make the choices that they want, and for the timing and the price and the terms and everything else that they want. Your thought?
Yeah. It's it's like the other questions, hey, if your issue is buyers aren't buying, you don't have enough buyers in the pipeline. You need to go find more opportunity. Someone's finding it and the deals are closing. The market is not frozen right now. There are houses selling every single week, every single day the market's open, houses sell. So
yeah. All right, last one for the day. By the way, I like this format. This is hilarious. I mean, some of the shit that these people are writing, I just looked at this one. We don't even need to talk about it, but question for top producers. I have 7 escrow closings in the next 30 days from 400 to 1.1. The one being my highest sale ever. What's the best way to spend my money as a responsible business owner? Meaning, which percentage would you use to allocate for marketing, ads, mailers? Well, I guess it's not that bad. But then when I clicked on the person, the profile picture it's a female, and the profile picture is her in a bathing suit. Now, that just doesn't seem like what the picture that she needs in her profile for her real estate business, but whatever. Maybe it is. Maybe it.
There's definitely a segment of realtors out there where if you click their profiles, you see something like that.
But when I see this woman sitting here in a skimpy bikini, I just almost wonder if it's legitimately or if it's some sort of AI thing. I don't know. All right, here's my last one for the day. I'm looking to invest in lead generation tool as a solo agent with a limited budget. Any recommendations? Go ahead, my friend. Lay it out there.
Yeah, lead generation tools with a limited budget. I'm not really sure what limited means because, to me, if you're talking about $500 or $1,000, that might be different than if we're talking about $100. There's not really going to be as much you could do with $100. But if you're on the really low side of the spectrum, I think the best thing you can do is call data, so take the spend, get some data, some good phone numbers, that meet a targeted criteria for like sellers you want to go after. Cause you can, on a cost per accurate number, when you buy data, that's significantly cheaper, like talking about pennies on the dollar versus if you're paying for leads from some service. So I would be the one that's just, pay for the data. If you're going to pay for anything, if you got $100 you can budget on lead gen, pay for the data, and then call relentlessly through these lists. If you got more to spend, that's where you could, budget, perhaps on generating some traffic through Facebook or, some other avenue you want to generate leads. The most premium you're going to pay though is if a company's like Zillow is going to do it for you, because, they've got the brand, they've got, and that's where you'll spend a ton, but your cost per lead will be, about as high as it could possibly be, because you're paying for their brand recognition and the fact that people are using their site and they'll get you their data. So, that's why I would do with the limited budget is call data, or if you have, a few hundred to spend instead of like 100 to spend, like, that's where you could get a process, and funnel in place to generate leads on Facebook.
All right. Well, here's some of the suggestions that they got for tools to buy. Market Leader, Catalyst AI, Top Producer Social Connect, Move Leader. I'm not familiar with any of them, but those are some that they got. All right, my friend. I appreciate it. Today was a great day. I enjoyed this conversation much more because some of the shit that people say is just mind-boggling, and I think it's fun to talk about. But until next week, have a great week. We appreciate you coming to ABC Agent Broker Conversations, where we're going to talk everything real estate. And actually, we're going to talk everything you talk about in real estate. So if you like things, don't like things, put your comments in there. Follow us, like us, share with others. We'd love to see you come back. Take care.